Throughout his life and ministry, Jesus met thousands of people as he travelled along. For some, he offered them healing. For others, in their thousands, he fed them miraculously. And then others still, he would fight and argue with them. As he came into conflict with the religious leaders of that time, who took issue with all that he had endeavoured to achieve, Jesus would speak to them of his mission to proclaim God's kingdom to the world. But because they did not understand just what his life and ministry were all about, they would set out to destroy the mission that he had accepted. But this was his life. This was his ministry, and he had said yes to that mission. But there would be others that Jesus would meet, others who would be called to share in the journey of ministry. And so often when Jesus would say, "Follow me," to such people, time and again they would say yes. We know he called the fishermen, Simon and his brother Andrew, who left everything to walk the way of discipleship. James and his brother John also left their father and their fishing boat behind and set about to undertake the ministry of discipleship as well. There would also be others who were invited to undertake this ministry to discipleship, who also would say yes to that call. Matthew, the tax collector we know, was interested in joining the community. Thomas, the one who would doubt, he would also say yes to that invitation. And even Judas, the one who would betray him, entered into this group of disciples who shared the journey with Jesus in his ministry. Such was the organisation that Jesus had set up, and it was these disciples, both men and women, who would choose to leave everything behind and walk the way with Jesus Christ. So that journey throughout Israel and the surrounding districts would continue to unfold, and as Jesus and his followers entered into the lives of the people of that time and place, others would be interested in finding out more, interested perhaps in being involved in the ministry that Jesus had brought to their town and cities. People were interested. And as they heard the message that Jesus would bring to them about this kingdom of God in the world, they perhaps wanted to be involved. But there were other times when Jesus invited people to share the journey with him. "Follow me," he would say to these other people. And so often, they too would say yes to that call. But unlike the first disciples who had been called and simply walked away into the history of discipleship, these new people, they seem to have other agenda. "I will follow me," many had said, "but I will follow after I do what I have to do in my life." This was not the purpose of discipleship as far as Jesus was concerned. "Leave the dead to bury the dead," he said to one possible disciple. And perhaps this new disciple perhaps simply walked away. There were others who wanted to farewell family. But again, Jesus would point out that the role of discipleship, your duty, he would say to this disciple, and no doubt to all disciples who chose to walk the way of mission and ministry, your duty is to go and spread the news of God's kingdom. Time and again, Jesus entered into the lives of so many people who would no doubt be fascinated by this unusual preacher who came into their world and turned it upside down. Here was a man who would speak with authority about the presence of God, and they wanted to know more. But to undertake that call to discipleship calls for so much more than simply being fascinated. When Jesus said to people, "Follow me," it's a call to almost leave behind all that is so important to us and accept the challenge of ministry, of walking the way of God's kingdom in the world. Peter and Andrew and James and John and so many others of his disciples, they had said yes to that call in their lives. Now, while they may not have understood the significance of that response to their call and to that invitation, still They would walk away from all that they had known and become ministers of God's kingdom in the world. So that may be the choice that is available to us as well, as people of faith. Once again, God calls us to mission and ministry. Jesus invites us to follow him. We are called to walk the way of discipleship with all of the challenges that such a mission and ministry entails. The mission of Jesus Christ, given to all of us, to proclaim the kingdom of God in the world, is still very much a necessary role that our church continues to play. And it does so through all of us, the members of our church. Follow me, Jesus says to us. And it's at that point in our lives that we have the opportunity to respond to that call and invitation. The choice is ours. But do we walk away as so many others seem to have done? Or do we take the risk? Do we say yes and undertake this important role of discipleship for our world today? Follow me, Jesus says. And now it's time for us to respond to that call.